Welcome back to another edition of ACF411, the official podcast of the Allen County Fair. And I'm your host, Russ Decker from Nutrien. And we want to thank everybody that helps this podcast happen. And that includes iHeart and Alex Wolf, our engineer. And this year we have Ann Decker, who's our videographer, who's making us show up on YouTube, of all places.
Fancy.
Yeah, and probably we couldn't even got on YouTube if we didn't have a star of the caliber of Chad Hughes, our guest in the podcast today.
Hey, I'm just the keeper of the passwords.
There you go. Keeper of the password. All right. Hey, so Chad is the historian, bar none, for the Allen County Fair. And it's a big fair. It's the 175th Allen County Fair, so it's not your first rodeo.
Not my first rodeo. Number 38.
So I was going to ask you, how many fairs have you been associated with?
My birthday is July 29th, so I was at my first fair 3 weeks after I was born.
Did you win a ribbon?
I mean, cutest baby, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we got Troy, oldest adult never to shave. I think he's going to win an award this year. So tell us a little bit about, so a lot of things going on with the 175th, but a lot of people saw the documentary, and if they didn't, they can. So what was the documentary? I know it was a 5-year project that you spearheaded.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, when I was the fair manager for just a blink of an eye, in the middle of a snowy winter night, we decided that we needed to create a documentary. So we started preparing from that moment. The board set aside some money from the bed tax that we get, and it was marketing funds that was set aside, and we were able to create the documentary. And I knew I wanted to work with Video Branch. I've worked with them a lot. They're a great crew. They've produced some other documentaries. So it was important to have a good production team. And that first fair, we started filming B-roll, scanning pictures, collecting footage, doing research, spending lots of time at the museum, lots of time in Jay's old files that are stored here at the fairgrounds. Jay himself was a little bit of a historian, the past fair manager. So from that, then we started to piece together the story. And we knew we kind of wanted to hit on a couple different things. And from there, we just interviewed people. So there was actually no plot line through the whole thing. It was just piecing together everyone's interviews to make the documentary that everyone sees today. And you can find it on the fair's YouTube channel where you can find these.
Well, you know, when we talk about the Allen County Fair, we talk about making memories. And I think what your documentary drove home was the fact that everybody you talk to has a fair memory or more. And I was actually so happy that, and you'll know exactly whom I'm talking about, but some of the interviewees that you had, I'm glad that we got the interviews before they left us.
Correct. There are 3 people in the documentary that have since passed, and we were able to not only talk to them about their fair memories, but get some of their history, of how things started, but just their life story as well. And we have all that footage now. We have over 32 hours worth of just footage of interviews of local people's stories that all have amazing stories. And we have that now. And the fair made all that happen.
And one of the ones that pops to my mind right away is Clyde. Clyde Ditto.
Correct.
And, because you look at the fairgrounds as we see it today, Clyde designed a lot of the buildings that people know about.
Yeah, the milking parlor that we are sitting in was one of Clyde's first projects that he drew up.
And Schmidhorst was probably about his last, was it?
Actually, the Nutrien Plaza stage was Clyde's, I think,
right.
last
he did that one.
thing that he drew up. Yep.
Yeah. But, I mean, you look at the Allen County Fairground as we see it today, and I know that had to mean a lot to the Ditto family, and I just picked him out as one example, but if you watch the documentary, there's all kinds of stories like that where you see how people put their heart and soul into making the Allen County Fair what it is today.
Generation after generation, Clyde's grandson is a helper in the antiques department that I help with today, and actually, Jason just had Jason Jr., who will be 25 years old at the 200th Allen County Fair this morning.
So we have to make sure he gets...
So the next generation's already here, ready to celebrate.
He's planning. Yeah, there we go. So let's talk about, if you're coming out to the fair, we hope that you do. Underneath the grandstand, there's a special treat this year. It's the museum.
There is the museum. I personally and the Fair Board have been collecting artifacts for many, many years, probably about 10 at this point, because we knew this was coming. So any box that had anything important on it, I wouldn't let the girls in the office throw away before I went through it and got all the stuff out. And a lot of those archives, paperwork, there's some war plans for during war times in there. There's a flyover from 1943 that they wanted to do in Delphus, and they more or less were told not going to happen because all the planes are too busy fighting the war. All that stuff is in there. Postcards from when it was held at the memorial site, the driving park site, which are super, super rare. And very hard to come by. The one that I purchased was actually found in California. So we've been collecting, purchasing, buying all this stuff to tell the rich history of the Allen County Fair now for about 10 years. And it's lived in my house and in my storage, and I am really happy that it's here because that means it can go into storage for another 25 years, and I don't have to stub my toe on it anymore.
So all this really neat artifacts that you're talking about, they are actually under the grandstand, very nicely displayed, and along with all those artifacts is the documentary that we spoke about. It's on a loop.
Correct.
So if you haven't seen it yet, hang out for a little bit, watch a little bit of it, come back, watch something else later. But and you can buy. Are there any left?
There are.
Okay, because I know they only made 175.
Correct.
I don't know where they got that number, but they made 175 copies of the documentary, and they're available at the administration office, along with some other souvenirs. What else is available?
There's fairwear, so sweatshirts, T-shirts that you can get. One design has Maurice on it. The other, with the big birthday cake. The other has just the fair logo, the 175th logo. But we have pennants, like you can see here. Right here's one.
Yeah,
Woo, the pennants.
That's right.
They were actually handmade in Buffalo, New York, so they're made in the USA. And I went to go see them while they were in production, because I'm a big pennant fan. I collect pennants along with a lot of other things. But the pennants are one of my favorites. And the gentleman who owns the company, they each gave us a tour, and I took them a yard long that was actually from Ohio. A yard long is a big long picture like you see. And all the school kids were holding pennants in it. And I think they were more excited about that than giving us a tour of their factory and production floors. So
that's very cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it. We can't let this interview go without talking about Maurice. And now he adorns the entrance to the Allen County Fairgrounds. I didn't realize he was so big. I've seen apparently it must be a Maurice number 2 runs the fairgrounds, because the real guy's out front, right?
Well, I mean, the real guy runs the fairgrounds. His ode to himself, his statue is out front.
Well, that's how that works. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know the exact footage. I've heard 20 feet before, but I know that his shoes weigh as much as a grand piano.
Wow. And so I did hear that the shoes were size 40.
Correct. Yes, they are size 40, and each shoe weighs as much as a baby grand piano.
That's pretty impressive.
It took a crane to lift each shoe into its spot. Not a big crane.
And you got to come out. And you know what's neat is 2 or 3 weeks out before the fair, I'd be over at Tractor Supply or something. And every time I was out this way, there was somebody stopped and getting a picture taken with Maurice.
Always. It's really fun to sit down with Troy when Troy has time, and they'll see where all the license plates are from, because we have cameras out there babysitting him. And they said that they've seen people as far away as Louisiana, California. So people from all over the country are coming to get their picture with the big Maurice, which is awesome.
So what surprised you? You know a lot about, you live the fair. When I think of the Allen County Fair, your picture pops up in my head.
That's scary.
It is scary.
chase away the mice with that
used
picture.
To be bats up there, but that's gone now.
We have plenty of bat situations this week.
So there had to be something, as you're going through all these archives of material, there had to be something that's like, really? Wow.
I think the coolest thing that we found in digging and millions of conversations with people, and that's kind of, it's tracking down history, figuring out who has it, where it lives. But we have a beam in there that to anyone else looks like something that you would probably burn over a fire. But it is actually from the original grandstands that sat at the driving park. And that beam the fun story behind it is a local family outside of Harrod, in between Harrod and West Newton. His grandparents bought that beam. And you say, well, why would you just buy a beam? Well, when the fair board was broke after those 5 years of rain that we talk about in the documentary, they dismantled the grandstand because it was in pretty bad shape. And they sold chicken coops. They made chicken coops out of the wood from the grandstand. And they sold these chicken coops to raise money for the fair. And his grandparents bought one of these chicken coops, and that chicken coop then got very, very old, as we know, around 100 years old at this point. And he took the beams, because they were such great lumber, because it was native lumber to that area, and he made a giant shelf. Well, he told me, hey, in a conversation, I have the beams from the original grandstand. And I was like, no way, you're crazy. And one day he took me out, and in his barn, Steve has a shelf that he made from these beams because the lumber is such great native lumber. And it still has the paint on it from the grandstand, which is pretty crazy.
You know, I think I really encourage everybody to check out this documentary, because there are things in there that will blow you away. And one of the things that just blew me away was, so when the Allen County Fair started, President Lincoln wasn't president yet.
He was not.
We had no electricity.
Correct.
You think of the fair today, and you look out here at all the stuff and the music and the sound and the flashing lights, and the first fair, we had no electricity.
Yeah, that very first fair, it was held on the banks of the Ottawa River, and it looked much, much different from what you see and imagine today. It was one day.
Yeah.
They had it the next year, and then after that, the fair board couldn't get along, which was about 20 years after Allen County became Allen County, and they kind of separated. And during that time, all the little villages had their own fairs. So there were still fairs happening in Allen County. It just wasn't organized by the Agricultural Society. So there was a fair in Delphus. That's eventually why it moved to Delphus. There was a fair in Spencerville. There was a fair in West Newton. There was a fair in Lafayette. So kind of the four corners had these small mini fairs that happened, which I don't even know if that made the documentary because we only had so much time. But if you really, really, really dig on the internet, you can find some ribbons that say, you know, fair, street fair, or whatever it was, a field. But I have one that is in our family archive that's from the West Newton Fair, and it is from like 1853.
Yeah, and we talk about the very first fair. It was actually in Ben Farot's farm.
Correct.
And Ben Farot, for people who were into Allen County history, he owned a paper mill along
He owned a lot.
Yes, he did. But his big business was the paper mill.
Correct.
Right on the river, which is also, his farm was right on the river, and hence the name Farot Park and a lot of other stuff. And
Farot Opera House.
And it was Ben Farot that was drilling for natural gas to power his paper plant when he struck oil, which then attracted John Rockefeller to town. So, what a rich history. And the fair kind of intermingles it all.
Yeah, and there's a great corner of the museum dedicated to Ben, and also in their newsletter that just came out very fittingly about Ben and all the projects that he was involved with in Allen County. Just came out like last week, I think it was. It was a great little article and write-up about all the things that he did in Allen County.
Fascinating. If you could tell people one thing, and then because I know we got to wrap this up.
We could talk for hours.
We could, but Troy said I had to shut you down after a while. So, what would you want people to know about the Allen County Fair, and that maybe they don't know? What would you want them to be? What takeaway?
I think the biggest thing, and the thing that constantly comes back and forth, and it makes me all teary when I talk about it, is the little kids. You know, I just watched, my friend is here from Columbus, and I watched her little guy go down the slide, and when he went down that big slide, that was the most fun he's going to have all week. And that's what it's all about. It's that next generation and generation after generation coming through, having fun, making those memories. You know, the old people talking to the young people, the neighbors talking to their neighbors that they don't see from across the county, the families getting together. You know, I saw 3 cousins today that I don't get to see on a regular basis, but everybody comes home from the fair, and it's just a big family reunion, and I think that is what is important. It makes me all teary-eyed, and I look like a giant nerd, but like, you just think, hey, we're going to the fair, it's really expensive, funnel cakes are expensive, it's hot, you know, get the sunscreen, load up your kids, oh, we got to haul the stroller. but you're making core memories with your kids, and that's important.
You are. I was on my way walking over here to the old milking parlor, which is where we have the podcast parlor
Correct.
now. And there was a little girl coming out of one of the barns. They had just had competition, and she had a 5th place ribbon.
Yeah.
And she was beaming from ear to ear.
Exactly.
That girl will never forget coming to the Allen County Fair and winning a ribbon. And it wasn't first place, but she had a project, and it was successful, and she got a ribbon in her hand, and she was pretty proud of that
and
ribbon.
In 25 years, it can be in the 200th anniversary museum.
And
I'll be 63 years old, so somebody else gets to do that. I'm going to be the old guy sitting under the tree in the shade.
You'll be doing the podcast.
I probably will be. Who knows if that will even be around at that point.
Chad, thanks for joining us in the podcast parlor. And please come on out to the Allen County Fair. We're only on day number 4 of 9, so we got 5 yet to go. Come on out to the Allen County Fair. And we'll have more coming up in the next episode of ACF 411. Hang in there.
Thanks so much.